I am Amy Vetter, and welcome to the Breaking Beliefs podcast. This valuable time is for you to pause in your day and go on your own self-journey. Discover the beliefs that are holding you back from living your best life at work and at home. Learn from the guests on this show as they share their inspirational stories on how they found ways to break internal beliefs that were no longer serving them. Because if you believe you can, you will. And our podcast begins now. Welcome to this episode of Breaking Beliefs, where I interview Sona Akmakijian. She is the Global Head of Strategic Accounting Partnerships for Avalara. Sona is Avalara's executive leading global accountant partnerships and programs. She is a California CPA with 30 years of transactional tax services in both advisory and automation. She is recognized for her deep industry expertise and her passion for the industry. Her vision is to offer innovative solutions that enable firms to support clients with end-to-end scalable global solutions. She advocates global strategic, mutually beneficial relationships with all accounting firms. She has experience in multiple tax segments, including the Big Four, state agency administering sales and use taxes, tax software companies, and mid-sized firm consulting. During my interview with Sona, we discussed her beginnings as an immigrant from Armenia and how the life lessons she learned from her parents have carried to the work that she does today and the importance that she places on family. This episode is sponsored by Avalara. Did you know that 52% of accounting practitioners, large and small, still rely on spreadsheets and manual processes for sales tax compliance? Using Avalara's award-winning technology, you can move your accounting practice to the 21st century and start or grow a CAS or tax compliance service line. The Avalara for Accountants automation platform helps accounting service providers of all sizes grow their service offerings with sales tax prep and filing, transfer pricing, tax research, business license management, and more. Scale your practice efficiently with this award-winning automation that brings efficiency and accuracy to sales tax compliance while reducing the risks for your practice and your clients. If you'd like to learn more about Avalara, you can go to accountants@avalara.com or visit them at avalara.com/accountants. I can tell you this solution I used in my own practice many years ago and have seen the growth in their automation capabilities that Avalara has put into their product. And for someone like myself that didn't want to get in trouble with sales tax with my clients, Avalara was a great partner. I hope that you enjoy this interview with Sona. There's so many great lessons for all of us to think about as we bring into our business and family relationships. Welcome to this episode of Breaking Beliefs, where I'm with Sona Akmakijian from Avalara. And Sona, you want to just start off and give us a little background on yourself before we begin?
I'd love to. Thank you for the opportunity, Amy, and hello, everyone. My name is Sona Akmakijian. I'm the Global Head of Strategic Accounting Partnerships at Avalara. Although I've been at Avalara for a couple of years, I've been in the sales and use tax consulting, advisory, and automation industry for more than 30 years. I've worked for and with accounting firms of different sizes and have an exciting job that I'm really passionate about now at Avalara. I basically help accountants of all sizes grow their practice leveraging technology, and I have a lot of fun doing it.
That's awesome. So excited to jump into that. Avalara has been a long time relationship for me. When I had my accounting practice, when I began 20 something years ago, I actually used Avalara in its very beginnings when I started seeing we were going to get in trouble with sales tax very fast because I wasn't a sales tax expert. It was hugely helpful in my practice, so love working with Avalara and seeing all the advancements they've made over time. But we'll get into that toward the end of just more of what Avalara does. But to begin, what we like to do on this podcast is really just delve into people's stories, because everyone has a story, and really what makes us us. kind of develops us over time. So maybe you can start out, where were you born? Where did you grow up? What did your parents do? What were their jobs? And did you have siblings?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I'm actually an immigrant. My family immigrated to the US from Armenia back in the late 70s. And, I was a child, 7 in elementary, 8 years old. And I came here not even speaking English. So I was one of those shy kids in school that sat in the back, unable to communicate, had the language barrier. But my family immigrated here with 3 children. I had one more child in the US. So I'm one of 4 girls. We always said my dad was one lucky man to have 5 women around him. And, my parents struggled, right? They came here, financially struggled. They too didn't speak the language. So I take a lot of pride in what they accomplished. My dad worked very hard. My mom has never worked in life because she was busy enough transporting 4 kids to and from school. But he worked super hard and, accomplished a lot and taught us some really good values that will stay with us. And I hope to transfer to my children.
So maybe we can just step back, and why did they immigrate to the U.S.?
So Armenia back then was a republic of Russia. So it was really a communist country. And, it was just opportunity for their children was really limited there. And they wanted to do more for us. So, through sponsorship, which took like 5 years in the making, we finally immigrated to the US, which was really hard for them because they gave up everything because it was a communist country. They couldn't bring anything. Literally, we came with a luggage each. You couldn't bring money, you couldn't bring jewelry, just a wedding band and whatever clothes you can get into a luggage. And we moved to the US and start from scratch.
Yeah, so my grandparents were immigrants from Russia. So we've never talked about this. So and I still have, the only thing that they brought was a menorah and 2 Shabbat candle.
See?
Sticks, and I keep them out because it's so amazing, and they're heavy. Like, this is, I don't know what the story is behind them. I wish I did, because it was my great grandparents that brought those, and my grandmother died when I was probably in 8th grade. But they had family in Minnesota, so they had come through Canada to meet family there. So did he have family here, or how did he know?
My mom had uncles, and
Okay.
somebody had to sponsor you, and you had to go through the formal process and go through the immigration process. So we were lucky that we had family here, and they went through the process. But we can talk about it, but it's a big move, right? Mm-hmm. Think about taking your 3 kids, moving to a country, not taking anything with you, and hoping it's going to work out and you're going to start
nothing on the other side.
Yeah, that's a big risk, but they did it to provide their children with a better life. And there's a lot of people with a similar story in our culture, Armenians. But it seems like your great parents have a similar story as well.
Yeah, well, and I've thought about it so much, just that spirit of taking that kind of huge risk, because it'll be better for future generations, but it's not necessarily better for you today. Mm-hmm. Like you as that it's very sacrificing for everyone else. It's such a huge decision to make, and how I've benefited, because just a couple generations ago, they did, it's not that long, it's amazing how much the difference it did make. And I've always felt a big sense of, not debt, maybe duty to do something with what the sacrifices they made. They didn't know who I was going to be one day
exactly.
when they made that,
And we went back for the first time, in, maybe 14, 15 years ago. and with my parents and my husband. And I just remember saying, Dad, thank you so much.
Aw.
Thank you for bringing us here and giving us the opportunity. It's just so different. I feel like I've had a better life, but my children will as well. And it's all because of the sacrifices they made.
Yeah. So what was his job in Russia? Or
He was a welder in
Okay.
Russia, but coming to the US, not knowing anything, he learned a new profession, and he was in the automotive business. So he worked repairing cars, and he worked really hard, for free, to learn the profession. And, we live in the land of opportunity. We were fortunate that we got government aid for him to, provide food for his 3-4 children while he learned a career. And by the time he retired, he was a business owner, and he bought rental property. And I lost my dad exactly 3 years ago. And he set up a good life, for his wife and for his children in the future. He was a very hard worker, and I've learned a lot of life values from him.
So, and I assume this was a struggle for your mom to stay home, but I guess with that many kids, there wasn't an option.
It was a struggle. She didn't have an option. I mean, with 4 kids, what could she possibly work, and how could it cover the childcare costs?
Right.
And she's always taught her daughters to pursue education and work, because she's always said a housewife's job is unappreciated. You need to go out there. You need to take care of yourself, and anyone else comes along with you, and be independent. So those were the values she's taught us. And, I have 3 other sisters, and we all work.
Mm-hmm. So why did she feel unappreciated?
She just felt that, I think she missed out on that opportunity to be a career person, to pursue her education. It was just different times back then. And she wanted us to work and contribute and be successful.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, as far as your dad, so you said that he ended up being an entrepreneur. So what was that path to doing that?
Over the years, he worked for a couple of people, and he lost his job. And he said, I think I want to work on my own. And we were such a tight family. We all supported each other. Like, I did his accounting. My sisters would do something else. It was really, he ran it and he worked, but he had a lot of help from his daughters on the side. So that's what really made him successful, was the bond and the connection and sense of community and the sense of support he had in his business.
Mm-hmm. So, and as far as with your sisters, where are you in that line? Are you oldest, middle? Wait.
I'm the second from the oldest. So I have 1 older and 2 younger siblings.
So how was that as far as supporting one another through something like this?
Yeah, I've always had such a great relationship with my siblings. They are my best friends. They are my sisters. They're my confidants. There is not a day where I don't communicate with them. Generally through text. We have a group text, and we're always communicating. So we're very, very tight family. So we really, people say they argue with their siblings. They can't, they don't get along with them, or they're not close to them. I would refuse to move out of state because of my tight connection to my family. Like, I've just been one of those people that would not relocate for work, because my lifeline has always been my sisters and my family.
So what about with your sisters? Do you think anything from being an immigrant and going through all of that with your family made you closer as a family? Like, what have you learned about keeping a family close or tight like that? From
I learned that a lot came from our parents, and the environment they created, the family values that they put out there for us. Like, we always had dinner together. That was a no. nobody, that was our time, and we had no distractions. It was about how our day was, what we learned, what we would share stories. Like, that's my childhood memories. I really feel that my parents did a good job at creating that environment to enable us to have that bond.
Mm-hmm. And is that anything that you've kept yourself?
Yes, I family dinners is a must in my house. We turn off TV, put away our phones. We talk about our day. So, because it's such a strong memory for me growing up, I created that same environment in my family.
Mm-hmm. So what did you dream of being when you were a little girl? Coming into the U.S. And so you said you were shy because of the language barrier. So what did you dream of being when you were that age?
I just wanted to be successful, and I wanted to be a business person. And I knew I was going to be in accounting, not as a little girl, but in high school. And my high school had accounting courses. The minute I took the first one, I knew that's the career path I was going to take. And
what was that?
I've always been a numbers person. When my mom tells stories of me being a child, they would bring fruit from the villages. It was me who sorted everything. Said, okay, we're going to eat this now. This is a week later. This is 2 weeks later. I've always liked organizing, sorting, counting. So it's been in my DNA, and something she knew, and she wasn't surprised. She's like, yeah, you've always been kind of the number person in the family. So
yeah,
I knew early on.
So then, so in college, you already knew going into college that was what you were going to be.
Exactly.
Were there any other accountants in your family?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. So what was your path then in accounting?
So ironically, I went to Hollywood High School. Okay. It's part of Los Angeles Unified School District, and kind of a pretty big high school. I graduated there, went on to USC, and I went in with accounting, got out with business administration, finance. How you go through the university, you change your major 3 times. Right. I made the change, and then I had to stick around for another semester, and I didn't want to do it. But I said, let me get out. I can take whatever class I need and take the CPA exam. And that's exactly what I did.
Okay. And so what was your first job in accounting?
When I got out of college, the job market was so bad. I was competing with people who got out the year before and the year before. And the only job, ironically, I could find was being a tax collector for sales tax for the California Board of Education at the time. Fun job, right?
It's very early, yeah.
So I fell into sales. I remember getting the interview, and I'm like, what is sales tax again? So I researched what sales tax was, but nevertheless, I got the job, and I did well as a collector. Hated it. Like, I was literally in the field, pulling permits, shutting down businesses. As a 21-year-old, took my job a little too serious. And I'm like, I don't like collecting. Maybe assessing would be easier. So I went over and did audits for California. And I'm like, you know what? I'm too ambitious. I want to make money. I want to excel. And the state is not going to give me that. And sure enough, I passed my CPA exam at that point, and I moved on to Deloitte, and I did consulting for them. And I'd much rather help companies than collect or assess. So it was a much more rewarding job for me.
And how did you end up getting into Deloitte?
Interviews. I knew state was not long-term for me, and I interviewed with their South practice and got a job and went in and did, audit, reverse audits and audit representations and VDAs and nexus studies. And Deloitte at the time was just starting their tax automation practice, which was, I'm like, I could do that. Wow, travel sounds really appealing.
Yeah.
I want to do that. Where do I sign up? And sure enough, they were just starting. It's like, what is it, 400 or 500 person practice now. I was on ground zero at the time, and we started the practice. And I really had a good run at Deloitte and left there right after I got married and met my husband.
Yeah, it would be such a way to be a consultant when you've actually been the person putting permitting on businesses, like your real life, like shutting down businesses of trying to help people. Like, no, this really happens. Like, I've
It
had to go
does
through
happen.
these horrible stories. I'm sure you saw business owners being upset and all of that stuff. So, what experience to take into a consulting realm.
Yeah.
So when you got married, then where did you go?
I left Deloitte because I was looking for work-life balance. Had a good career at Deloitte, and I was really excelling and going up the ranks. And I would not be surprised if partnership was for me there. But when I looked at my role models, I said, I really want work-life balance. I want children. And I'd met my husband. I said, I need something that's going to give me that and get me off the street. By the way, that never happened. I still travel in my current role. I managed to learn how to do both. But I left and went to a company that's today known as Sovos, and was at the time known as Taxware. And I was their director of learning and development. So was helping them develop their training programs. And I did a lot of different things. And that's really where I got introduced to partner management.
Yeah. So I think, just before talking about this part, I think it's really important point. I work with a lot of accounting firms on this issue right now, of people leaving. We always have people leaving in the profession, but it's been, a huge exodus after what we've been through in the last few years. And a lot of times the answer is always, well, this is just the profession. This is the way that it is. And rather than how can we actually change this, it doesn't really need to be this way. It's how we go about working or doing our staffing mix and so forth. And, if you talk to the staff, many of them don't want to go into leadership for the same thing that you just said, is I look at how they work and it doesn't look appealing. I don't want to even be worse than what I am today. So now that you are a leader and have kind of made these shifts in your, life, how have you been able to manage that, and what advice would you give to other leaders about this as well?
Well, I would say that the profession has changed and it has evolved over time. When I joined Deloitte, people were saying how lucky I was because women can now wear pantsuits, right?
Right, I remember, yeah.
Remember those days? So it's really, I felt fortunate that I could do that, but it's even evolved more now. When I was in public accounting and I was doing working with consulting and traveling, they had 3, 4, 5s. You're out of town 3 nights, 4 days, and the 5th day you're in the office. But look at us now. We've embraced remote workplace. We're creating a better environment. I think the new generation is also pushing us in that direction. And I think that we don't need to work the 80 hours I used to work, or people like me had worked. We can be productive with work-life balance. And I think that profession has really embraced that. And women, or men for that matter, don't need to work 80 hours to be successful. I think we've gone through quite a bit of a transformation, and it's such a happier place now compared to what it was.
So how have you been able to put boundaries around your career? Your career is demanding the things that you do, as well, to make sure that you are able to do what the reason you left Deloitte in the first place.
I think the number one thing is I'm at peace with the guilt factor, right? I remember for years, I would travel with 2 children at home below the age of 4. Mm-hmm. And my husband was amazing because he was mom and dad when I was away. And the guilt was horrible. Am I a good mother? am I abandoning my children? I would go to the airport and cry. I love the professional aspect, but I felt like I was giving up something big on the other side. And, through the years, it's not that I've come to peace with it. I think it was the best decision. I think my children now at 14 and 16 are better individuals because I was traveling, because I've been a career mom. They've learned to be more independent, more respective. They understand that, they have a better life because I've chosen this path. So, I feel that being comfortable with that and seeing that it was a better decision was the number one accomplishment for me.
It's funny. So many memories come up when you say that, because I think, this is a lot that maybe men don't understand about women working in the workplace and don't know what's going on in their bodies and minds and so forth of that guilt, because it's also pressure amongst women, judging women on the life that they have. And that's just a whole, cultural, environmental thing that happens that men aren't a part of, and they don't even see it happening, right? But we feel it, we sense it. And so we're always like struggling. Are we doing the right things? Are we doing good enough? Are they going to be upset later, and so forth? And I remember I was kind of going through a breaking point like that of, maybe I'm doing the wrong thing, whatever. And I was like, maybe I'll just quit. I'll quit everything and I'll just stay home. And so I said something to the kids like that I was considering it, and they're like, well, wait. They're like, what about the house? Like, what would happen to the house? And they start like listing all of the things that they liked about the fact. And I was like, it's funny because you're only thinking in your perspective, but the kids are more about like what's in it for them. Not just that, but the other things. And like you said, the independence, I would see certain things that stay-at-home moms did that I didn't have time to do, but they could see what they appreciated from their life. And a lot of that was that they were like, I wasn't worried for my son to go to college. He knew how to take care of himself. He'd been doing, he was good at making his own breakfast, doing his laundry,
packing their own lunch, putting away it's the little things. And you see the difference when you are around children that have stay-home moms, and I'm not generalizing, in hindsight, we all make decisions and we're happy, and I'm sure stay-home moms they have their reasons for making their decision, but just the guilt that was with me for years was the number one, I think thing that I've overcome. And, you learn to balance it too. I don't need to be part of the PTA. I don't need to be the classroom mom, but I do need to go in for things that my children remembered. I was there for holiday parties. I was there for big, Thanksgiving parades. Those things I will always make time for. And I was at a conference and the keynote said, you never, whether you're a mom or your dad, you never miss those special days, and you never brag about missing them. And I think that was such a powerful message. As dads or men in the workplace, oh, my son had a birthday, I wasn't there, it's okay. I've seen a lot of that in the profession over the years. But what she said really resonated with me. You never miss it, and you never brag about missing. And so you balance it. It's okay to say, you know what, I'm not going to be able to make that trip because it's my son's birthday, or there's a big music performance, or whatever it is. I think I've learned to be more vocal about that. And I think the profession has become more accepting of those.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's funny just recently, because I think it's also actually asking your kids what's important to them. So, because there's things from a parent perspective, again, in the ecosystem, that we're like, oh, if we don't show up to that, people are going to judge me or whatever. So both my sons have run cross country, but when they're seniors, like the senior parents are the ones that do like the pasta dinners before the races on Saturdays. And so my older son wanted us to do it. You know, we did it. But I just got an email because now my younger son is a senior. And I was like, oh, I should probably do this, you know, because that's the senior parent. So I sent a message to him, luckily, before I volunteered. I'm like, do you want me to do this? He's like, please no. I'm like, okay. But that would have been something I would have assumed. Like, he might feel bad if we didn't have,
Exactly.
you know, like, those are the things where I think that communication with your kids is so important. Like, we'll feel bad about things that they're like, I don't
really
care
that's
about
okay,
that.
Mom. Don't worry about it. But we need to remind ourselves of that oftentimes because we forget
Yes.
that.
Yeah. What else have you done to keep some boundaries in the workplace?
I've gotten involved in my kids' schools. My boys are into music, and they're part of performing band, and I got on the middle school booster as the treasurer. It was a bigger commitment than I was ready for, but you know what? I've enjoyed it. I've created, and you know, my work is very accepting of it. If I need to do a board meeting, you know, just getting involved in stuff like that makes me feel better about being part of my kids' life. And
Right.
ironically, they had no issues with me doing that, or
Yeah.
they didn't. But my high schooler would probably say something different, though.
Yeah.
Getting involved in the community, getting involved in associations, never missing those special milestones, even if it means I need to put off a partner meeting or go to a conference later. You know, and it's also very important to have a good partner. My husband has been a blessing. He's always been very supportive of my career. He's been there for our children, and played a dual role when he needed to. So that has really helped me be successful in life as well.
Yeah, I think it's really important, that communication of when you need help and be okay to ask for the help and not feel guilty to ask for the help, that you are partners in this, and that they're a parent too. And, you know, it's not them babysitting, it's them actually, you know, wanting to do that role and not getting in the way of that for them too. So if you need to make a meeting or be somewhere for the kids or cut something off for family dinner, what is your mode for communicating that at work? Because, you know, a lot of people, when this topic comes up, it's especially in this profession, and if they're not a leader, they might feel like they don't have the right to ask or to tell someone that they can't do something. So how have you been able to navigate that?
So first of all, every job I've had, I've treated it as like my own company. What would I do if Avalara was my company and I have this meeting, right? There have been very, seldom situations where I have missed a personal thing that I felt it was the right decision for me at the time. But I will say that, you know, the companies I've worked for have been very supportive, and I've been fortunate enough to have good bosses where I'll just have the discussion with my boss and say, listen, I've got this conflict, and how to, just talk through it. And if I really don't want to miss it, do we move things around? Does he go in, or does someone else? There's always, in life I've learned that everybody's replaceable. Right. I may be the right ideal person for that meeting, but you know what? There might be others who can do a good job as well. Mm-hmm. So we just talk through it. And I've learned not to be too hard on myself, and to really give my family the priority that they deserve. Because earlier on in my career, I didn't do that. I felt like, okay, I need to do this for my work. And I've missed events that I wish I hadn't. But through my career, I've learned to balance it better. Experience makes better, right? I felt like I needed that gift of time to really make the decisions that I would be proud of here 30 years later.
Yeah. Is there any times that you can kind of feel your father or your mother's advice coming through you as a parent or in business that you're like, that it actually comes from them, that You're
all the
seeing.
time, all
So
the
what are
time.
some
My,
examples of that?
the sense of family values,
Mm-hmm.
the sense of you work hard if you want to get something somewhere in life. Those are just values that I could just hear my dad's voice and my mom, just saying, you need to work, you need to focus on your profession, you need to be independent. Those are all things that were embedded in me from a young age.
Mm-hmm. And do you give that advice to people that you work with, or how have
I
you
do.
seen that it comes back out through you?
I always tell my kids, and even at work, it's like whatever we do, we have to be proud of the output. We work hard. I tell my kids, the sky's the limit. You want something? Nothing is unachievable. You just need
Mm-hmm.
to be smart about it and you need to work hard. If you work hard, you will be rewarded.
Yeah, yeah. So, as far as the impact that you're making now in your role, what is it that you feel, you're kind of living those values of being proud of the work that you're doing and feeling purposeful about it, and the sacrifices that you do make personally are worth it?
Um, I joined Avalara 2 years ago, but the ironic fun fact is that I've been around Avalara for much longer. I was actually a partner of Avalara and decided later to join Team Orange because I just loved their vision and what they were doing in the profession. And I'm so proud of being part of the team and leading the vision of Avalara's involvement with the accounting community and the profession, and how our strategies to support them from a technology. We're investing in enabling accountants to grow in areas that they didn't expect to in order to add efficiency to their practices. So I'm really proud of the team. And it's not me doing this. We have a team. I'm proud to lead the vision and be part of this excellent team that's delivering on a strategy that's going to make a difference.
Yeah, awesome. So I love to end our interviews with some rapid fire questions. You pick a category, either family and friends, money, spiritual, or health.
I'm going to stick to my common theme of family.
Okay. Things or actions I don't have that I want.
I wish I had my dad,
Oh.
and I don't have it. That's the number one thing that comes to my mind.
Yeah. Oh, that's very sweet. Things or actions that I do have that I want to keep.
My family, my kids, the bond, the connection, and my extended family too.
Mm-hmm. Things or actions I don't have that I don't want with my family.
The hardship growing up, which really has driven me to be successful.
Yes.
Don't miss that.
Yeah. And that always creates that fear of making sure you're never in that position again, right?
Exactly.
I grew up
Keeps
with,
it going.
yeah. Things or actions that I do have that I don't want.
Oh my goodness, that's a tough one. What
Yeah.
I have that I don't want. Geez, the pressure, work pressure.
Mm-hmm. That might get in
And
the way.
always making the decision, right? Always
Yeah.
having to balance things.
Yeah.
It's stressful at times.
Yeah. And everyone, no matter what level, is going
Yes,
through
it's
that.
everyone.
That's why it's so important. We're just aware and alert of what everybody's going through.
Mm-hmm.
So, great. Well, this has been so awesome with you sharing your story. Is there anything that we haven't talked about, or you want to make sure that people walk away from this conversation remembering?
I think that we all have our challenges, and it's important to bring the human factor in our profession. We think about promotions, we think about specific tasks and deadlines, but we shouldn't forget the human factor. We never know what people are going through, the challenges they have. Just be open-minded and accepting of things around you.
Very good. So thank you so much, Sona, for being a part of this today. And there's many life lessons I'm sure everyone will be able to take away from your story.
Thanks a lot, Amy. This was great, and I appreciate the opportunity.
And now for my mindful moments with this interview with Sona from Avalara. Really stepping back from this interview and thinking about some of the life lessons that she learned as an immigrant and as her parents being immigrants to this country, and really that entrepreneurial spirit of not knowing what is ahead. And that is what I think about when I think about immigrants. Is I can't even imagine leaving everything you know, just taking a few things with you that are most important, and also coming to a country that you don't have a place really to go, a job, you have no idea what's in your future, but you are doing that to help future generations. It is such a purpose-driven thing to do, and just so much family at the heart of it. And, Sona and I talked about just both of our families having immigrants from Russia. And so just comparing those stories and how it affected the decisions that we make in our current lives because of the sacrifices that just a few generations ago made in order to make our lives better. And Sona talked about just financially struggling as a child being an immigrant here, and also not knowing the language and how that affected her in school, about being shy and so forth. And the lessons that her parents really instilled in her of hard work and really making sure family is first. And I think a lot of times we step away from that, especially in times that we're burned out, and really getting back to those big lessons that we have in our life of what is really important. And at the heart of it, when we talk about working hard with a purpose, and really understanding why we're working hard, not just work to work. And I think some burnout can be caused because that's how we're comfortable. We work to work instead of really grounding ourselves in purpose and why we're doing what we're doing. And if that purpose is around making our family lives better, our children's lives better, and so forth, making sure we're balancing that with being there and being present for our family as well. And I think that's the conundrum that we're always faced with in our strive for a better career, a better life financially, and especially if you struggled as a younger child like Sona did financially, that fear of getting back to that place of being in financial struggle or losing everything actually keeps you motivated that never happens again. But then we have that opposite goal of family first, and making sure, like she talked about, that they have those family dinners every night and they're turning off the TV and they're putting away their phones. And there is some boundaries around work and our personal life. So Sona talked about how important it was for her to create a successful career after seeing the struggles of her family, and really her first job being as a sales tax collector. And is, when we think about some of our first jobs, it really does help inform us as leaders of what our vision is and how we're trying to help. I know a lot of times when I've pivoted in my career or changed jobs, I knew that I had to get, roll my sleeves up, get my hands dirty, work in the business to really understand what needs to be fixed, what needs to be changed, how am I trying to improve people's lives. And from that job to moving into consulting, where she was doing salt reviews at Deloitte, she was able to take that experience but actually flip it to help small businesses and medium-sized businesses with tax automation, but also making sure that nobody gets in trouble that way. And so that's where these life experiences really drive purpose. And it's important that when we shift in our careers, and she's had a number of pivots in her life, but staying within sales tax to what she does now with helping accounting firms to automate in this way and really create businesses so that this can be something you're not having to think about, you're not having to worry about, and you have peace of mind for your clients, that it's important that we're always driving back to that purpose, where we came from, why we're doing what we're doing, and making sure that everybody understands that. And then we also talked about how much the profession has changed with this remote workplace, but also making sure that we're good with our work-life balance, whether we're remote, whether we're in the office. And she talked about, as a woman, making sure that she was at peace with that guilt factor, in quotes. And I think that's so many people struggle with that, whether you're a mother or a father, of, missing something of your kids, and making sure that those are the things that you set boundaries around, the most important things for you to be involved in, that you've actually spent time talking to your kids and really understanding what's important to them and what's non-negotiable to not miss, but also what can be missed, so you're not feeling guilty if you have to miss something. And also thinking about how to balance between our work, our children, our personal lives, our friends, our family, and talking to the people around us, our support system, and the people that rely on us, like our kids, if we have kids, to make sure that we are balancing it right. And if we're it shouldn't be something we worry about to bring that up or to have that conversation, because it actually helps our relationships to come to an understanding of what's important and what can't be missed. And she talked about working hard with her lesson of just thinking about her job as if she owns the company, and making sure that, is she doing something that if she had to pay for it personally, would it make sense? Would it be the right ROI? And ensuring that she's thinking like an owner as a leader. And I think that's really important after seeing her father running his own business and working hard, but also making sure that he was working on the right things with the budget that he had in order to run his business. So at the end of the day, it was, really important, as we came to the conclusion of this, is to make sure that we understand that nothing is unachievable. When we think about the immigrants, the people that brought us here to this country, and the risks that they took to get here, that's so much more insurmountable than some of the things that we face every day. And that we can achieve things when we step back and think about it step by step. And as we go through those steps, be proud of the things that you do along the way. I want to thank Avalara for sponsoring this podcast with Sona. It was so great to speak to Sona. And again, if you would like to learn more about Avalara or how you can get involved with their automation tools, all of their information will be in the show notes of this. You can go to avalara.com/accountants and learn more about their partner program. If you like this episode, make sure to like it, leave comments, and also subscribe, and refer this to your friends, your family, anyone that you think the messages on here would be helpful to them and their lives. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to the Breaking Beliefs podcast. I hope you will take a moment to pause before entering back into your day to reflect on this podcast and note 1 to 2 actions you are inspired to do from today's conversation that you could incorporate into your life. To read the full blog and listen back to this episode or any other, you can find them at www.amyvetter.com/Breaking Beliefs podcast and related videos on my YouTube channel. For daily inspiration, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Amy Vetter CPA. I hope that you will choose to like this and subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and more, so that you can join us for more inspiration on our next episode.